it's Nelly. Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I am going to be showing you guys my most recent updated foundation routine. I have switched up my routine quite a bit. I have switched up the products quite a bit. I actually have tons of affordable products in today's video, but that's just what I have been liking more recently. I'm showing you tips and tricks along the way if you have my type of skin tone, which is very dry, very dehydrated texture and porous skin. I am showing you guys how I get my flawless cakey free, because my skin is not cakey. I love how I have been doing my foundation recently. It gives me enough coverage, it covers everything, but my overall outcome is still very natural looking and it doesn't look cakey. We still have on a ton of stuff on our skin, but if you actually look at my skin in person, it just looks so flawless and so natural, and I freaking love the way that I have been doing my foundation recently. Like, whenever I sit down to do my makeup, the foundation process and like the face process is actually my favorite part of my whole routine because of how much it transforms my skin. If you want to see my current go-to flawless but natural foundation routine, then just go ahead and keep on watching. Alrighty, let's go ahead and get started. So the only thing that I have on my face right now is just my brows, and they look kind of messy, kind of undone, but that is the whole point, because I'm going to show you guys how I go in and I clean them up using my foundation. So I don't have any moisturizer on, I don't have any primer on my skin. My skin is bare. So I'm gonna go in with the Charlotte Tilbury. It's funny because every time I say Charlotte, I get a comment saying that I'm saying it wrong, and I don't know. Charlotte? I don't know. Let me know how you pronounce it, because I always get a comment saying that's not how you say Charlotte, and I don't know. It's like Charlotte's Web. Charlotte. So I am going in with the Charlotte's Magic Cream, and this is what I have been using as my moisturizer recently. I love this stuff. It's very rich and moisturizing, like super duper moisturizing, and it just makes my skin feel and look so good. I could be having the driest of days and I go in with this moisturizer and my skin is automatically plumped up. After I have moisturized, I like to kind of leave my moisturizer on for a little bit. I would like to take like 10 to 15 minutes. During that time, I will go ahead and do my eyebrows or go dampen my beauty blender if I haven't done so, because let's be real, who actually dampens their beauty blender before doing their makeup? Like, I swear, every single time that I sit down when it comes to foundation and concealer, I'm like, oh, I have to get up, I have to damp my beauty blender. Moving on to primer, I am going to prime my skin using the e.l.f. Poreless Face Primer. I really do like this primer, and it is very affordable, so I'm gonna put some on the back of my hands, and I have been using a brush lately to prime my skin, and I'm applying this on the T-zone, and I don't know if you can tell, but let me see if I can zoom in. Look at the difference between this portion of my face. I have the primer there and this one. You can see all of my pores over here and here. They're nice and blurred. So this is a great primer. It's really affordable. It does what it's supposed to do, and it's affordable, which I've said like 10 times, but it is awesome. If I have anything left, I'll take it in the back of my hands and I'll rub it in between, and then I push it in. We're ready to move on to foundation, and honestly the star of the show in today's video is going to be the foundation. This is the Maybelline Superstay Full Coverage 24-Hour Wear Foundation. Ever since I got this foundation, this is the only thing that I have been using. I have talked about this in my last couple of videos. I have raved about it everywhere to everyone that asks me for a foundation recommendation. That kind of rhymed, but I love this so much. It's very affordable. I think this is like $8 or so. I think that's how much I paid for it, and it's a full coverage. It has a natural finish. My skin is not super dewy, but it's not super dry, and it just blurs everything. Everything just looks so flawless, so freaking beautiful, and the color selection on this is awesome. I use the shade I use the shade 220. I just take it on the back of like a little clean Petri dish and I spray a couple pumps. I have been applying it using the Morphe and Jaclyn Hill JH03 brush. I tap my foundation in there and I get a nice amount in the brush. I don't rub my foundation because I have texture, because I have large pores. I feel like if I rub and buff the foundation in, it moves around, it doesn't really stick down, it doesn't really fill in my pores. So the way that I have been applying my foundation lately is I actually tap it in. I pretend that my brush is a beauty blender and all I do is I tap the foundation in like I would tap it in with my beauty sponge. And this foundation matches me pretty well, but I do still like to bring it down the neck just to make sure that it matches perfectly. Now look at the coverage that foundation gives you and look at the finish. It's just so freaking beautiful. Compare one side to this side. Obsessed. For the forehead, with whatever is left on my brush, that is what I am going to be applying. I don't have a lot to cover in my forehead, and honestly I feel like if I go in with too much foundation in the forehead, it just creases, it gets cakey, it starts to kind of look a little funky. So with whatever is left on my brush, I just lightly run it in the forehead area and I don't really concentrate too much product there. This foundation brush is just a little bit too big to blend in really close to the eyebrows. So I like to go in with a concealer brush. This is from Colourpop. This is called, it doesn't have a name, but it's a concealer brush. And I take a little bit of the foundation, whatever is left, and I pretty much just carve out the top of the brow with my foundation. I'm going to take a little bit more of foundation and I'm going to hit the center part and clean everything up. Next, I like to go in with my damp sponge, and the sponge is not super duper wet, it's not soaking wet, it's nice and damp. This particular sponge is from Shine Bee Miami. I talked about it in my last video. This video is not sponsored at all, but I love this sponge so much. It barely soaks up any of the product and it's so easy to wash. Mine is just stained because I use it a lot, and as you can tell, it's kind of breaking already because of how much I use it. Like, I love this so much. It's also a little bit denser. It's not as soft as another sponge, but I have been preferring that recently. I've been preferring a more dense sponge. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to run this over the skin, and this is just going to pick up any extra foundation that you may have applied. And it's also going to smooth over any streakiness that the brush may have left behind. And it's also going to give the skin a little bit more of hydration. On to concealer. You can use any concealer of your choice. Honestly, lately I have really been enjoying the Colourpop concealer. This is the Colourpop No Filter Concealer. And I don't know if you can tell, but I do use it a lot. It's almost done. And the bottle, the writing on it is almost gone because of how much I use this concealer. This is in the shade Light 14. I have been taking my concealer and I first go in and I do a big swipe under my eye. And now I take the same brush, I haven't dipped it back in, and I'm gonna go on the sides of my nose. And then I'm going to connect it right here. And then I'm gonna pull the concealer down. I'm not adding any more product. I am simply taking the concealer that's under the eyes and I'm pulling it down. So it seems like it's a lot of product, but it really isn't. It's that product that you first swiped on, you're just blending it down. I'm not gonna dip my brush back into the tube. I'm just going to turn my brush to the other side and do the same thing to this side. Now, a pro tip that I learned actually from Makeup by Ariel, that's Kylie Jenner's makeup artist, is to actually smile when you're doing your concealer. And that's gonna tell you how far down to take that concealer. So just smile, and I like to go to the apple of the cheek and up. Now I'm going to go in to the rim of the concealer. I'm not sticking my tube, I'm not sticking my wand back in there. I'm taking the concealer that's in the rim, and I'm going to apply that on the chin, right here on the Cupid's bow, down the center of the nose, and up here in the forehead. Now I'm going to go in with my sponge once again, and I'm going to blend everything in. Now I like to start from the bottom and work up. So I go in here and I blend out this area first. So I blend out that harsh line first. See, it just, this concealer and this foundation, they just work so well together. I love it. And then once I have that line really nice and blended, then I start to move my sponge up. Now we're going to set the under eyes, and I have changed the way I set my under eyes a lot. I like to go in with my Maybelline Fit Me Powder in 05, and I like to go in with a super dirty. I like to go in with my beauty sponge, but for the beauty sponge, I actually apply it dry. I feel like it locks everything a little bit better. I feel like it makes the under eyes look really nice and flawless and airbrushed. You can go in with the damp sponge, but I feel like when I do that, I add too much product, and what tends to happen is that my under eyes end up looking a little bit drier and cakier, whereas if I just set with a dry sponge, it just applies the right amount of powder, and then everything else just falls right off. So I'm going to shake the powder. I also like to take the back of my hand and I tap off the excess powder. And then I apply this to the under eyes. And I'm also going to take it down the sides of my nose. I like to go in with the wedge side, the flat side, and I make sure to bring this on the sides of the nose. And this is just going to create a very slight natural contour. And don't forget the center. I'm going to actually just let that bake, and while that is baking, I'm going to go in with the same powder, but this time in a shade that's very similar to my skin tone. This is the Maybelline Fit Me in shade number 20, and this powder, I do apply it with my damp sponge because it does give me a nice extra layer of coverage, and it does make everything look really nice and matte and just even, whereas in the under eyes, I don't want that heavy coverage. I want that heavy coverage on the rest of my skin. I'm taking the flat side and I'm going to dip it in there. And I am doing the same thing. I'm going to get the back of my hand and I'm going to tap off the excess powder. And then I'm going to, too much. And then I'm going to apply this to the skin and tap it in. And don't forget your forehead. Now I am going to go in and bronze the skin while the under eyes are baking. I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of bronzer. I am taking the Wet n Wild Color Icon bronzer in Queen's Land. This is what it looks like. It has a little nice dragon. I'm using it with the JH02 brush. I don't know how I feel about this brush. When I first got it, it was really nice and kind of flat, and it was so pretty to apply. But once I washed it, it just became this huge thing. So, I mean, it still works nice, but I liked the shape that it came in better. Anyways, so I'm going to pack that in. And then I am just going to apply this on the hollows of the cheeks and also up here in the forehead. I'm going to take a little wedge, and these you can find at any Walgreens. It's just the basic white wedges, and I am going to take some more of my face powder. I'm going to dip that into the powder, and pretty much all I'm doing is I am just going to carve out the contour area, and this is what this is going to do. It's just going to make that contour slash bronzer just come forward, and it's going to clean everything up. So if you took that bronzer just a little bit too low, you can just take a wedge with your face powder and clean it up. Now you can also take some translucent powder for this step. The reason why I don't take some translucent powder is because once you blend it in, this portion of your face just becomes way too white and it just doesn't match your neck. It doesn't look good. So I've been using my face powder and I like that so much better. I'm gonna take my NYX contour kit, and I'm taking a smaller face brush. This is the JH07. I'm gonna go into this shade right here, and taking just the slightest bit of that, I'm gonna tap off the excess. I am going to wipe off the bakage that we have under our eyes with that powder. This is just going to brighten everything up, and it's going to give us more of like a nice little pinky tint to the under eyes. I'm going to take a little bit of my bronzer, very little, and I'm just going to contour the sides of my nose slightly. So next, I like to go in with blush. I have just been so obsessed with this blush. This is the Laura Geller Tropic Hues blush. I'm taking it with the JH04 brush. Applying this to the apple of the cheek, but I'm staying above this jawline area that we still have not cleaned up. Now I'm going to go in with a big powder brush, and I am just going to blend this powder into the skin, and I actually like to blend it upwards, and this is called the buffing technique, because what you're doing is you're buffing that powder into the skin, and it just makes everything look so nice and airbrushed, because everything just kind of buffs in together. So I am just buffing that in. Now I'm going to take a layer of the Morphe Continuous Setting Mist. While that dries, I'm going to go ahead and pop on some falsies, and then I'll be right back to finish with highlight and all that good stuff. Okay, so I am back. I really quickly popped on some very natural lashes. I lined my waterline with a white liner, and then I added a little bit of black to the outer corner down here. I lined my lips using the Buxom Plump Line Lip Liner in Undercover. This is my favorite lip liner at the moment. Then for the center of the lips, I did use the Luminous Cosmetics lip, and this is in the shade Blushed Jasmine. This smells and tastes like chocolate, and it's delicious. The only thing that we have left to do is highlight. Now, if I'm being 100% honest with you guys, I haven't been highlighting as much as I used to. I just don't think that's something that I'm into anymore, like the extreme highlights. Now I'm mostly just focused on certain areas of my face that I want to highlight instead of just highlighting everything. I don't know, I just feel like when you don't wear as much highlight, you look really youthful and your skin looks really youthful. So that's just been what I have been into. That was not a proper sentence. But anyways, for highlight, I'm using the Pixi Glowy Gossamer Duo in Subtle Sunrise, and I'm gonna take this shade right here, and I have been using the Morphe JH09 brush to apply it. So I'm gonna take a little bit of this, and I have been, like I said, very selective of where I apply my highlight. Before, I used to just take it all over the cheek and call it a day, but now I just apply it right here at the highest point of my cheek, right there. So see, I'm talking normal, and then I just turn and it's like, whoa, it's there, but it's not all over. I just feel like it just looks so much more youthful this way. And then I go in with a smaller brush, and I take the highlight and I apply it to the tip of the nose, and then take a little bit more down the bridge of the nose. I'm going to take a little bit and apply it in the inner corner, and then I take my blush brush once again, and I make sure that that is nice and blended in with my blush. Last but certainly not least, I'm going to go back in with more of the Morphe Continuous Setting Mist and do another layer. Alrighty, so this is the completed look. Honestly, looking at myself in my monitor, I feel like I went a little crazy on the nose highlight, but that's okay. We all do love a nose highlight. I just haven't been liking it like all over my skin. But this is everything. As you can see, it's very full coverage. It's very flawless. It's not cakey. Nothing is creasing. Everything is really nice and set. And my skin in person looks flawless. It looks like my skin, it's not super powdery, it's not super heavy, which is what I have been liking a little bit more recently because my skin is so dry and dehydrated looking. I have been enjoying more of a natural looking skin, but there's still a lot of product on our skin, but the overall outcome is still very natural. So yeah, this is everything. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you learned a thing or two. Let me know in the comments what you thought, what you want to see next. Don't forget to subscribe, like, share. That's it. Only those 3 things. I always feel like there's so many more things I tell you guys to do. I love you. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you very, very soon with a brand new video. Mwah!